We're not here to advance ourselves in any way. This isn't a stepping stone into politics. And a lot of people tend to think that's exactly what SMU is. We're here to help students. I'm here to help students and make life better for Indigenous students. My role right now is kind of trifold maybe. We focus a lot on advocacy, and that can be within the university, that can be responding to external factors. So we think about wetsuit earlier this year. That's one part of the portfolio. Another part is increasing the visibility and representation of Indigenous students. And that can happen through things like the conference. That can help through things like organizing the powwow every year in support of the First People's House. And then kind of the third part of the portfolio is offering services and support directly to Indigenous students. So we've expanded existing services at SMU, including the SMU Drive Safe program. And we've also implemented our own brand new services. And so something like the parking passes for students coming from Kanien'kehá:ka territories. And there's some fierce Indigenous peoples doing brilliant work. But at the same time, there is this very real racism that a lot of people don't really talk about that much anymore. And I feel like I saw a lot of that during the name change. On a personal level, it was empowering at some points. The fact that we'd been taking shots at this for a really long time, the name change, and all of a sudden, you could almost feel in interactions with the administration, the kind of chipping away at the name. People really support Indigenous students in this instance, and that was empowering. But it also made me feel vulnerable in some ways. It was supposed to be an opportunity for non-Indigenous peoples to see how I really felt about being called a Redman. The anxiety that I felt as a varsity athlete at the time of having to carry a Redman name as an Indigenous person. I think there was a bit of an individual toll that was taken during that time that a lot of people didn't obviously see. I mean, people don't always see the very racist commentary people would throw at you during that time. You know, I would look at people commenting on my own Facebook or messaging me directly saying, you know, a snowflake looking for attention. Just a dumb Indian who only got into McGill because he was Native. People have kind of targeted me behind screens of Reddit, screens of Facebook, you know, where we couldn't actually engage in this dialogue. For me, what matters the most is that we're supporting future generations and younger Indigenous students. And so at the end of the day, future Indigenous students aren't going to be plagued the same way that we were as Indigenous athletes because the name has changed. I had $0 in funding when I came on board as Indigenous Affairs Commissioner. And to try to plan and change the name campaign from $0, that was exhausting. We're expanding the Indigenous equity fee, hopefully. Even just the smaller fee this year, we've already seen an expansion of services. We've seen the institution of new services. An Indigenous student even just told me, living in Kahnawake, this gives him hours every week to spend with his baby girl. And just that one story makes the Indigenous equity fee worth it. That we're allowing Indigenous students to stay on their territory for a longer time each and every day. We're taking thousands of dollars that they normally have to spend in just commuting from their own territories to campus, and we're allowing them that kind of fiscal security on top of the very human impact that this is having on families in Kahnawake, Kanesatake. Such a brilliant opportunity that we have, and something like the Indigenous equity fee, it's not just 50 cents out of every student's pocket. It's, you know, an extra lawyer out on the blood reserve. It's a doctor up in Nunavik. It's just so many, that ripple effect of how we can better support communities. It does start in little moments like this. And that's why the Indigenous equity fee is just really so crucial here. One of the next services that we're going to be rolling out, hopefully in the next couple months, is subsidized gym memberships where Indigenous students can go together to the athletics facility and be safe in a collective environment. One of the things that I reflect on during the Change the Name campaign was that a lot of Indigenous students had been saying that they weren't comfortable in the athletics facility. And that's not okay. We know that being active, being healthy, that can really help in a lot of other ways. Mental health, spiritual health. There's a lot of ways that this has a more holistic impact. And the fact that Indigenous students still don't feel comfortable going back into those spaces, that's something that's not okay. and something that I want to take care of before I leave my role as commissioner. I'm very thankful that I'm finally leaving the position because I haven't enjoyed this. In the most recent flare-up with the executive, and reflecting on my experiences with the vice president internal, I wanted to resign. I sat the executives down and told them I was resigning. And then you remember those Reddit comments of me being portrayed as the angry Indian, me being portrayed as overly emotional, me needing to resign, non-Indigenous students calling for me to resign, as I was already planning to do. But I refuse to let people push me out of a role that I know I'm doing a good job at. And I do trust that I've done good things for my community while in this role. I'm very proud of the way that I've handled myself and supported the community. I was not going to resign in that moment to allow it almost to look as if I was running away from these comments. I thought it was very important to set an example in that moment that I'm a Blackfoot person. And I faced a lot of racism in my life, growing up on the Blood Reserve. And I wasn't going to let anyone think that I couldn't handle this, because I could. I'm the only Blackfoot person here at McGill. I'm queer on top of that. There's just so many ways in which my experience at McGill has been unique. SSMU gets a terrible rap sometimes, and it can truly be a terrible institution. But there are some of the most beautiful souls you will ever meet there. Beautiful McGill experience, I'm going to say, in that it's such a terrible institution at times. It really grinds you to the bone. But it's in those moments almost, it's in those moments of loneliness as a Blackfoot queer person where you find other people who are also struggling. And it's almost that coming together in those moments of panic, of grief, of stress, and you build these friendships, these relationships that really last forever, that really, stand the test of time. I don't regret for a second the last 4 years at McGill at all.